I'm Sandra Christensen, and welcome to the Voice of the People live stream. I am a candidate for District 4 State House of Representatives, and today we're going to talk about something amazing. We're going to talk about the wild horses out in Rio Verde. But first, I just wanted to say I had an amazing time at the memorial yesterday, the Arizona Veterans Memorial celebration. I got to spend time with some amazing veterans, and it was such a blessing to really be reminded why we're all fighting to make this country better. I heard some amazing stories before the ceremony, and I was really blessed to see some of our amazing heroes that have fought in Vietnam, World War II, and I believe one of them said World War I, but I'm not totally sure. There was lots of conversations there, but we had a great time. But the important thing was there are people that have sacrificed, and some have sacrificed their entire lives, and some have lost their lives to save this country. And that's what I want to talk about today is just service of country and love of country. I'm here with my friend Cody, and he is a representative in Legislative District 3. And we're going to talk about the Salt River horses today. So welcome, Cody.
Thank you, Sandra. It's a blessing to know you and a blessing to be here. I'm honored. Thank you.
Well, before we get into the story of the horses in Rio Verde, I would love to know how your transition has been. So for those that are watching, you are in a very interesting and unique situation. So Joseph Chaplick held the seat that you are currently in. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you were appointed to fill his seat when he vacated that. So tell us a little bit about that transition first before we get into the horses.
The transition was fairly seamless. I do have, not many people probably know this, but I do have experience at the House as a constituent. In 2022 and 23, I live in Rio Verde Foothills, and we were faced with a pretty dire crisis with water.
Yes.
So I jumped into that fight, was down at the legislature working with Representative Chaplick, Representative Cullinan, and many others on trying to remedy that situation. And we prevailed. We got a short-term fix for that problem. And we worked with the county, the city of Scottsdale. We worked with the Corporation Commission. So really all levels of government. And it was kind of a crash course over the period of a year to 2 years, understanding how all those systems work. I did have that experience going into this. So, some of the motions we make from the floor, I was familiar with. There was a little bit of coaching that was, people were trying to give me advice, and I said, no, I got this. I know this. I've seen it, hundreds of times, and it's just really an honor and a blessing to be serving the people and representing the people of Legislative District 3, the best district in Arizona. I think every representative should feel that about their district. So no offense to 4 or 2 or any of the neighbors, but LD3 is the best.
Well, being on a school board, I actually do serve in Legislative District 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
So I met you when I was serving in District 3, not just as the Paradise Valley School Board member there, but also we served as precinct committeemen in District 3 together.
Yes.
Yes. And one of the things that stuck out to me with what you're saying is that when you and I are people of faith, so when the Lord calls you to do something, he equips you. And that's happened to me time and time again. But it sounds like that has happened to you as well. When we are called to serve, we're happy to go forward, but sometimes we don't know all the pieces. But God kind of numbers your steps and helps you get there, wouldn't you say?
I completely agree. I have witnessed God in every day of the campaign, every day serving at the House. My faith has never been stronger, and I see it in my family. I feel the best that I've ever felt in my life because it's hard to explain, but I feel like I have my purpose. I've always been kind of a, conservative activist, if you could call it that. Stood up against the federal government in Colorado with the Forest Service closing land, and many other things. But now, I've seen the problems. I've seen my state change in the 14 years that I've been here. And this is where I want to raise my family. This is we have my wife and I have 4 kids. They all go to school in Scottsdale, and I've been feeling this kind of looming pressure over the state for the last couple years,
Mhm.
especially under the Hobbs administration. We have had some drastic changes to our state. People are feeling it. We're losing liberties, we're losing freedoms. We have no security in our water. We have, crime in the streets. People on drugs that need help, real help, and not just moving them from one place to another. And people just want to live their normal lives and have be able to let their kids go ride their bikes in their
Yes.
neighborhood
Yes.
and come home when the streetlights come on.
Mhm.
That's how I grew up as a kid, and we're losing that. Even in Rio Verde Foothills, crime has increased. We had 3 shootings just in the last 2 years, and there had not been anything like that in the prior 10. So something is happening. It's a failure of government. It's radical leftists that want destruction of what the people that have fought and died and sacrificed their lives to create, have established before us.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I will interject for a second then. Although sometimes things feel very dire, there is hope.
there is hope.
And it's wonderful when you're a person of faith because you have that hope. I, like your mother, who I met recently at a District 3 meeting when your name was submitted to the Board of Supervisors. I was able to meet your mother and talk, and I know that she is a strong prayer warrior. I'm like that for my son. I have a 19-year-old son. This is why I stay in the fight. This is why I became a school board member and why I want to take it to District 4 State House of Representatives because we love this country, we love Arizona, and we want to make it better for the next generation. And so I really resonate with what you're saying because of that and because I'm a mom and because I have lived here since moving here at almost 30 years in actually over 30 years. I moved in 1994 to Arizona and I love it here. And I don't want this state to go the way of California. We have 2 sisters that live in San Diego, so I know how things are declining there.
I'm from California, and we fled that state because of those ideologies and the direction that state was going. When I was 14, we moved to Southwest Colorado, and then Colorado went from being a place of freedom, and
Mhm.
they passed some pretty
Yes.
radical laws, changed their constitution, and at that time, I was starting a new family, just got married, and we had a 6-month-old baby boy. And I looked at Arizona and I said, "We're moving. We're going to Arizona." And so for me, this is our last stand. We're not going anywhere. We're staying in the fight. And I really feel that God is leading me in this. When I made this decision to run for representative of District 3, it wasn't a decision that I came to me naturally. It was divinely inspired.
You felt
And
called.
and people, I didn't say anything to anyone, and then people started coming to me saying, "When are you going to run?"
Mhm.
And so my wife and I prayed, my family prayed, and we said, "Lord, if this is what you have for us, then you open the doors.
Mhm.
If there's a wall or a roadblock, I'll try to find a way around, under, or over. But we're not going to try to bust through and make something happen that isn't supposed to happen."
Yes.
And He has been immensely faithful in that, in opening the doors.
Well,
Hasn't been without its work, but
exactly. Well, the reason I'm smirking a little bit is because I feel called as well. And one of the things that I've been telling people over and over again, the Lord opens doors no man can shut, and then he closes doors he does not want you to walk through. So he's opening doors for me as well that I am not opening. And so that's kind of what that little smile was about, because when you are called to something higher, as we mentioned, God equips you, but he also opens those doors that you cannot open on your own. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. It gives you a peace beyond
It does.
understanding too. You
It
can't even explain
absolutely
it.
does. Yeah. Well, I'm going to pivot a little bit because I want to know what's happening to the Salt River wild horses.
Yes.
Just to give you a little bit of background, and I don't know if you know, I did go to veterinary school at UC Davis School of Vet Med. I had a baby. I made it to 3 years of my 4-year doctorate, but a lot of the classes that I took were equine, and I love horses, but I was doing small animal medicine and a little bit of avian and exotic, but I loved the horses. Horses are just magical creatures, and you can't BS a horse. They see right through you. I did work at Radiant Grace Ranch, which is right in your neck
It's a
of the
quarter mile from
woods.
my house.
Yes, and I love that place. So please tell us what's happening and what have you done in the legislature to help with this concern?
Yes. So there's a management group that was formed roughly 10 years ago, maybe more. The people of Arizona spoke because the horses were at risk in 2016 and 2017. And, they converged on the legislature, and there was this big bill that went through. The sponsor was Kelly Townsend, and it pretty much fixed the issue of the horses being removed from the Salt River area.
Can you
Uh,
give us an idea about how many? Because I did read an article about it, and it's in the hundreds. It's not just a
yeah,
handful of horses.
there used to be around 500 or 600, roughly. Now they're down to 274 through humane management, fertility control, and the goal was always to get the herd size a little bit smaller, so that they're manageable, and they can be sustained on the 19,000 acres that's allotted for them. But now the Department of Ag at the state level, Arizona Department of Ag, has signed a contract with the management group to remove 25 horses per year for the next 5 years, bringing them down below 150, maybe around 120, 120 horses in the herd. This falls below the safe genetic viability threshold that is in the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, Wild Horse and Burro Handbook.
So they may become extinct
Yes.
if we do that.
Yes. So what this bill is, Senate Bill 1199, what it does is it halts removals for 3 years and gives enough time for the state to conduct a genetic diversity study to determine an actual number.
Okay.
Because right now the number is just arbitrary number that has been thrown out there.
So I'm going to back you up a little bit. You mentioned a Senate bill.
Yes.
When you came in at the end of the session, pretty much. Well,
Very-
not the very end, but tell us what a striker bill is and what happened with legislation that you've introduced.
Yeah. So when I was appointed, or shortly before, I was told, you're not going to be able to do anything of your own because you can't introduce any bills right now. But there's a senator in the Senate, Senator Dunn, that was gracious enough to allow me to do a striker on one of his bills. And what a striker is basically it's an amendment to the existing bill that has already passed a committee or come from one chamber to the other. And it strikes everything. It's called the Strike Everything Amendment. Strikes everything out of the bill, strikes the title, and you put in new legislation, new drafted amendment into that bill. So essentially, it's an overhaul amendment. So we were able to.
But you are a representative, so this one came.
Yes.
This one came from the Senate. So because it was past a certain point in the legislative session, you were able to do that. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
typically, that's not the case. Though.
When I was appointed, we were hearing Senate bills.
Yes.
There was a few House bills still being worked on in the House that the Senate has sent back over. But there was this Senate bill in the Land, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs Committee. It was the last committee of the session. It was the last hour of the last day to make an amendment to any bills that were already in committee. And it was my second day as an appointed representative.
No pressure.
No, so I had to move quick, and I had some help along the way, and we were able to get it done. We were able to get it amended, and then a few weeks later, we were working for a few weeks on the amendment, the actual amendment of the bill, because what we did was we brought the Salt River Horse Act from 2017 onto that bill, made a 2-word amendment. So then it gave the House the authority to amend that bill through the legislative process. So now we have introduced the legislation, the amendment to the bill that prohibits removals for 3 years. And it passed out of the Committee of the Whole, which is the entire House committee on the floor. And the next step is for it to go to third read, which is the final vote from the House before it gets transmitted back to the Senate.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you hit the ground running when you got appointed, right?
Yeah, it was an issue that I was aware of as a constituent
Yeah.
and was very concerned with because I, like everyone else, thought that it was solved. I didn't think these horses were at risk of being removed. Because,
What were some of the challenges that came with that? Because obviously, when you introduce something like that, that there's going to be, I don't know, were there any challenges that came, or is it a pretty straightforward process for something like this?
I was warned before I got into it that I'm, stirring the beehive.
Oh, I
Said,
like it.
"Welcome to the hornet's nest." And I didn't understand what that meant at the beginning. I thought, what could be so complicated about
Right.
saving our wild
Everybody loves
horses?
horses, I think.
There was a lot of interests at play that were concerned that it was going to affect other industries. I made sure that
Got it.
this bill does not affect other industries. It's isolated to the 19,000 acres that the Salt River horses are located on, just below Saguaro Lake. Um, they're fully fenced now. Prior to 2018, that was not the case. Horses were getting on the highway, so there was some concern there. That's not happening any longer, and they have a negative growth rate. So in a few years, they will reach a lower number, but we want to make sure that they're there for future generations, and that's what this bill starts the process of. We're going to have to revisit this legislation in 3 years. It's all it's going to do is stop the removals so that we can do a genetic diversity study and come up with an actual science-based, peer-reviewed number
Okay.
that we can stick to and manage the horse herd around that number so that they're there for future generations.
Mhm. So, a question, just thinking about my background in equine, even though I was not an equine doctor, um, who manages the herd when there's illnesses or things need to occur? What kind of help do they get from a veterinary standpoint?
So under this legislation that I've worked on and the existing legislation, we never changed anything in this aspect, but the responsibility is on the Arizona Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
They are able to contract with a third-party private entity,
Mhm.
which they have done since the original legislation was passed in 2017. And so that private entity has done the management. They've done, if there's a horse that's injured or ailing or has a disease, they're able to, under the authority of the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Ag, go in, remove that horse, seek veterinary treatment, and then hold that horse. It's my understanding that they're not able to reintroduce the horse once they've removed it from the herd, but
Okay.
they are able to administer aid, bring the horse back up to good standing of health, and then adopt the horse out to
Great.
a family that wants a piece of Arizona history.
Okay. So so now what happens? So you are not in session right now, but my understanding on Monday, right? June 1st, you
Yes,
guys come back.
go back June 1st.
And what happens then?
So June 1st, I anticipate that we'll probably be tied up a little bit with the budget,
Mhm.
just a little bit.
Mhm.
But there is going to be probably a few weeks, and within those few weeks, we will be working on outstanding bills and legislation that many members have been working on, and getting them back over to the Senate, and the Senate sending what they have back over to the House for the governor to hopefully sign. She is the veto queen, so
I did see her
I'm hoping she doesn't
yesterday.
veto the horse bill. I mean, who doesn't want to save the horses? But
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what challenges are you anticipating? Are you anticipating it be smooth selling from here or
Well, if the committee of the whole
Mhm.
vote was any indication, the Democrats, I don't think, are in support of the bill for whatever reason. They haven't come to me to tell me their issues and what their concerns are with the bill. But it looks like we have strong Republican support. We should have a full majority on the bill. I don't want to speak for any members, but we've worked through the issues that I presented the bill to the Republican members, and they came back to me with a few issues they had, and we made those changes, and they were minor. And I think everyone's on board, and we're going to pass this out of the House and send it to the Senate.
Great. Well, as you know, I'm running for Legislative District 4 State House. I'm currently serving on the Paradise Valley School Board. I'm in my 4th year, and my hopes is to get past the primary and elected in November. But what advice would you give somebody like me who is not currently elected, but just to hit the ground running like you did? Is there something that you would advise? I know a lot of the committee meetings and things are on the website there at the legislature. What would you suggest for somebody that would be new?
Yes, it is very time consuming, but it is for me, spiritually rewarding because there are issues, there are bills that come through that are not good bills, that need to be dissected and need to be debated, and that's what the process is designed to kind of weed out. And so it's a lot of studying, the days before when the committee calendars are posted and given to you. reading the bills, understanding the issues that they're trying to solve, maybe the origin of the bill, why this is necessary at the state level. Is it proper role of government? Is it constitutional? And are your constituents asking for it?
Yeah. And as Republicans, typically we're supposed to be for limited government. There
Yes.
was a record number of bills that got dropped this cycle. So is that kind of what you were alluding to? Like not everything needs to be passed and go
Yes.
through. So
There was far too many bills this cycle.
yeah.
We should have had half that amount, especially with, a governor that we know is going to probably veto most of the Republican bills. Um, it's very time consuming. And, when you get 20 or 30 bills dropped on your lap, a day or two before that you have to vote on them, it's difficult to understand, exactly what every bill is trying to accomplish. But the other members in the House, each member has their specialties. So the good piece of advice that I could give is, your allies in the House, really lean on them. If it's a Health and Human Services bill, lean on, your ally that's their specialty, and, try to get their understanding of what this bill does. And then always filter it through the Constitution.
Right.
If it's not proper form of government, proper role of government, it shouldn't be passed at the state level.
So what committees are you currently on and what committees will you, when you get reelected, right?
Yes.
When you get reelected, what committees would you like to be on?
So currently I'm on Judiciary and Public Safety and Law Enforcement. So those are the two committees that I'm on now. I'd hope to add one more next session, and that would be Natural Resources, Energy, and Water. That's the top issue the state's facing right now. And next year is going to be we have some drastic cuts coming our way off the Colorado. So that's going to be a very important committee for me, and for District 3 is going to be impacted. One of the highest impacted districts will be District 3. So anything I can do to try to curb that and augment our water use, bring in new water, that's all done through the Natural Resources, Energy, and Water Committee.
How is your race going, by the way?
It's going well.
I know it's kind of hard. You were campaigning and then you had a little bit of an about face when you got appointed, but how are things going?
Yeah, I haven't been able to campaign as much being in office, and but I really hit it hard in the campaign early on. I think I was the first to announce for this race, and it's gone well. We have massive support. Fundraising is going well. A lot of fundraising has come in the last couple weeks, and I just can't wait till July 21st.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. As I mentioned, having served on one of our largest school boards that is located in District 2, 3, 4, and 5. I do have a lot of contacts in those districts, and so I know all of our representatives. And so and going back to that, being equipped, I've already been reaching out to some of my representatives, and I'm trying to get geared up and prepared. But one of the things that I really appreciate is those representatives and senators that really love to meet with their constituents, because that's one of the nicknames that I received on the Paradise Valley School Board is Voice of the People. And so how important is it to actually meet with your constituents and talk about some of the issues and concerns, and how do you balance that?
That is the most important thing that a representative should be doing. So, the time is always there for me. It's a miracle. I mean, as full a day as I could have, there's still always time to meet with constituents, and I've done that consistently since I was appointed. Met with some folks from Cave Creek and Carefree. There's an issue going on kind of close to my neighborhood that constituents are very concerned with, the overdevelopment of an area. They want to pack 700 homes in the middle of Rio Verde. And so I've been meeting with constituents on that. It's not really a state level issue, but it is an issue that the constituents are concerned with, and they wanted to hear my take and where I was at with the issue, and had questions on how to proceed through local government. And, I've given advice, and not really leading the charge on it. It's constituent driven, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Yep.
And I've just offered my support where it might be needed. And it's things like that that really matter, to understand and not become disconnected from
Right.
your constituents. And always being involved in the communities around you is very important.
And I think that's the key because even as a local school board member, I get information from people around my district, and I don't have all the answers. And we're not there to solve the problems, but we are there to listen and to bring concerns to the powers that be, people that can actually make changes or help with the issues that constituents have. And sometimes not everything is solvable, but I think the important thing is to listen and hear them out and try to come up with solutions, not us on our own, but with the whole, to ensure that we are representing every voice in our district, whether or not we necessarily agree with every single thing that comes out through our constituents, but it's very important. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree.
Are you
Yeah.
are you finding that already that people are, because of your openness to meet with them, that you're receiving more questions and more outreach?
Yes, a lot of emails,
Lots of
and
emails.
try to read every one of them.
Mhm.
Some of them slip through, and some of them are, lobbyists and this and
Yep.
that, and special interest groups. But the constituent emails, I've received a lot of them. They're bill specific, and some of the things I'm hearing on some bills, they're more like local zoning ordinance bills. Sometimes I don't agree. Sometimes I think that it's providing more liberties and more rights to property owners, which I
Mhm.
will always vote for. And but most of the time, the constituents agree with how I'm already thinking, and they're giving me their opinion, and I look at it and go, yeah, I completely agree with that. And so it's really comforting to me to know that I'm the representative for this
Yeah.
district. They've vested their power
It's an
in,
honor.
in their representative, and for the most part, I agree with most of the opinions that are sent my way from the constituents, and I think that we're aligned very well. And look, I'm just a husband, father, blue collar construction worker. I'm not a political, big political mind. Just a normal guy from Rio Verde, and to be in the legislature is really has been an honor. And I want to be able to, work for the people and be the voice for the people
Mhm.
that are going through hard times, the people who have families that we haven't built enough homes for their kids to move into and purchase. We've overdeveloped apartments, and apartments are flooding into District 3 now. And these families that have kids that are getting older and want to purchase their first home and own a piece of the American dream, that opportunity is fading away for this next generation. And so to open that door up, allow for more homes to be built for purchase, not for rent, is going to be
Yes.
very important over the
And
next
I
coming years.
I also have that concern because, as I mentioned, my son is 19 and he's in college. He's in college in Boston. I don't know if he's going to move back to Arizona or not, but I think about all that as well. How do we make things affordable for the next generation? Because this generation is slipping past. In my generation, many moons ago, we were always upping our parents. We were making more money. We were doing better, and it's not the case anymore. So I I think I hear that sense of urgency in you as well, and one of the reasons why you are wanting to serve. But I feel that as a mom too, and wanting to make things better, not just for my own son, but everybody's child.
Yes. Yes, I agree. That's where we're at, and cost of living is going through the roof
Mhm.
in Arizona. Our gas prices are almost equal to California. Our cost of living is almost equal to California. There's a slogan going around, "Don't California my Arizona."
Mhm.
Fully stand with that. I mean, what I've seen in California, what I lived through, for the first 14 years of my life, it was a great place when I was a kid, and then towards the end, it became horrible.
Yeah.
And I see the same warning signs happening in
Yes.
Arizona. We're at the beginning of it. We can stop it before it takes
Mhm.
over.
Um, Before we wrap up, you're in District 3, I'm in District 4, but can you explain why it's important to support strong candidates and strong legislators across the state, even if you're not in district? Because it doesn't matter if they're just in your district. We
Exactly.
have to work together when we're trying to solve these problems. And if we strengthen District 3, we strengthen District 4, 2, and all the surrounding districts. It makes everybody better.
Yes. So I'm a Republican, conservative. So I can speak to the Republicans and the conservatives out there. if you're a conservative or Republican and you live in a district that you're not represented, you can support the representatives or the candidates running for office in the more conservative districts. And it's not out of their purview or not out of line for those representatives to answer questions and work for people outside of their district. There are other issues happening across the state. There are statewide issues, or they're specific to other districts. And, we had in Rio Verde, take example that we had other representatives that are not representatives for our district that helped us with that issue. And it took a whole team. And so if you're not represented in your district and you want to support a candidate that has a chance at winning, you can support the conservative candidate, maybe in your neighboring district that may be a conservative district that, shares your values.
Mhm. Well, great. Well, I want to thank you for coming today. Is there anything that you can tell our viewers about the horses or about anything that you want to share as far as websites, information, ways to help? Can you
Yeah.
share that
So
information?
there is some misconceptions going around on social media right now with the horses. They're calling them feral, trespassing on public lands. That's not the case. The horses have been there. There's documentation back in the Arizona archives dating back to 1890. The private entity, Salt River Wild Horse Management Group, did a DNA study on them. They have Spanish DNA. So from the Spanish that were here,
Like
in the
the
1500s,
Constituents?
1600s, yeah. It was probably horses left over from their
Makes sense.
herd that they had traveling with them. And so, yeah, they're not wild horses from, 4,000 years ago, but they've been here longer than we've been a state. The people love them.
Yes.
The people have already spoken for, protecting them, preserving them. And so to continue to allow them to be removed would be going against the will of the people. And they're a symbol of Western heritage and freedom. And it's a piece of Arizona and one of the last pieces of the West that we have to go and view and go tube down the Salt River, and you see a herd of wild
Very
horses go
cool.
across the river with their foals, and there's something about it that you can't really
It's
find anywhere else.
majestic. Yes. So is there a website that people can go to if they want to do more research? I think is it the Salt River Wild Horse Management Group that you were referring to
Yeah, they're
earlier?
the
So,
ones that manage the Salt River horse herd.
mhm.
They have the contract with the Department of Agriculture, and so they have a website. It's at srwg.org.
Yes.
So that has a ton of information on what they do. They don't take any public funding, from the state. There's no state funding that goes to them. They're all donation driven,
Great.
and they're a great organization. And they do the work that needs to be done to manage the herd. They've done a fantastic job.
Well, I just want to thank you personally for your service to Arizona and just stepping in for District 3 when we needed somebody to, you know, go to bat. And so I appreciate your service, and I know the people in District 3 do as well because I still speak to a lot of them, and we're neighbors, and we want to serve and we want to make Arizona a better place.
Yes.
So thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I'm Sandra Christensen, and this is the Voice of the People live stream. I want to thank my guest today, Cody, for coming in. And I think that the important thing that we need to come away with here is that it takes all of us. And we have so many different types of people that can roll up their sleeves and help save Arizona. You don't have to run for office. You don't have to be a hero. You can be somebody in the background, but all of us need to take responsibility in helping to save this state. So I just want to thank Cody, and I want to thank my guest and everyone that has joined us live today. This is the Voice of the People podcast, and I will sign off now, and I hope to see you again on Thursday. Thank you.